Judge is threatening jail time for former President Trump. He has found Trump in contempt for the 10th time for violating a gag order in the case and will consider putting him behind bars if he keeps up the willful violations. Caitlin Becker is in Lower Manhattan with the latest. Caitlin, what's the update?
You know, Marni, $1,000 now on the table that Donald Trump has to pay for this 10th gag order violation. Now, pretty kind of small fine considering the fact that he had to pay $9,000 last week for the 9 previous violations. But the main takeaway here is the judge really reiterating what he did exactly this time pretty much last week when he ruled on the first set of violations that continued issues are going to land Donald Trump in jail. And he does not want to have to do this. I mean, take a look at some of the things he said from the bench. He says, as much as I don't want to impose a jail sanction, I want you to understand that I will if necessary. The last thing I want to do is put you in jail. There are many reasons why incarceration is a last resort for me. Now, he certainly understands the gravity of putting a former president of the United States and potential next president of the United States behind bars for something like 30 days for continued violations of a gag order while he's already facing this criminal hush money trial. So that is on the table. I will say, though, that at the moment, there are no other outstanding gag order violations that the judge has to rule on. So as long as Donald Trump stays on the straight and narrow, this shouldn't be a problem. Now, on the way into court this morning, we, of course, know that Donald Trump always addresses the media, and he was specifically asked a question about Michael Cohen, who is, of course, going to be the prosecution's star witness. He's previously been fined for speaking about Michael Cohen because the gag order prevents him from talking about potential witnesses. But he didn't answer the question. He actually just talked about the gag order. Take a look.
But I am allowed to say that the judge has a conflict that like nobody's ever had before. You ought to take a look at it. He's taken away my constitutional right to speak. I was in Miami this weekend, and reporters are asking me questions, the same questions like you're asking me, and I have to say I have a gag order, I can't speak about it. Never happened before, ever. Number one. Number two, it's a fake trial. They have no case, and it's been absolutely proven now. They have no case whatsoever. This is Alvin Bragg doing it for political reasons for Biden. This is a Biden trial. He's a crooked president.
So he can say that. He can talk about the judge. He can talk about the gag order. He can say it's a Biden trial. He can talk about the district attorney. What he cannot talk about are witnesses in this case. He cannot talk about court staff. He can't talk about the judge's family, which he has done in the past. And he specifically cannot talk about jurors, Marni. Now, of the 4 violations that the judge ruled on, the one that he did find Trump on was one specifically where he talked to a media outlet about the jurors, saying that they were something like 95% Democrats, and that is just patently not true. So that is the one instance that he has this fine for. So like I said, as long as Trump does not violate this gag order moving forward, the judge will not have to incarcerate him for any length of time. Now, proceedings have just gotten restarted here for this Trump hush money trial. The jurors are in the courtroom, and the prosecution has called their first witness of the day. This is Trump Corporation former corporate controller. That's Jeffrey McConney. Now, he's on the stand right now talking a little bit, just sort of those foundational questions. What did you do for the Trump organization? But it's interesting to note here that he seems kind of calm and collected, even sort of cracked a joke on the stand. Now, he testified in Trump's civil fraud trial and broke down in tears on the stand about how kind of heartbroken he was to have worked at a company he loved so much and then have to field all of these questions of impropriety and misconduct within the company. So it isn't quite a juxtaposition between this testimony today and what he did last time. He was on the stand for days last time, so who knows if we'll get to that point, but things are just getting started today.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.